Welcome everybody to this class on magical creatures, care of magical creatures. So I'm going to read you a little informational piece, and then of course I have a couple of videos to show you and then some discussion. Animals are a fundamental part of the magical world, as they are for the Muggle world. Owls, toads, unicorns, and phoenixes are important characters in the story. And of course, there are more human-like beings too, such as goblins, elves, centaurs, and merpeople. The magical world is a world of great diversity, where even ordinary things behave in surprising ways, alongside the exotic and the fanciful. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the shaggy gamekeeper Hagrid takes on responsibility for the Hogwarts course on the care of magical creatures. When he introduces the children to the Hippogriff Buckbeak, he observes that hippogriffs are very proud creatures, very easily offended, and therefore should always be approached with great respect. Draco Malfoy neglects this warning and nearly loses his arm after the offended hippogriff attacks him. I know. He says, "Oh, I almost lost my arm." He was patched up just fine.
Just bullshit.
Yeah. I'll try to edit that out of the video time. In fact, animals are such an important feature of the magical world that one of the greatest protective charms a wizard or witch can conjure is called a Patronus. The Patronus takes on the form of a specific animal: a stag, a rabbit, a dog, a badger. The choice of animal, we are led to believe, depends on some kind of spiritual connection between the animal and the wizard, some attribute or virtue they have in common. We make all kinds of symbolic associations with our animal friends, which we human beings around the Muggle world have enshrined in collections of fables, including those from Aesop and La Fontaine, as well as in the more controversial collection of Uncle Remus, folktales from the American South. Lions are regal, dogs are loyal, foxes are clever, snakes are crafty, ants are industrious. Even in the Holy Scriptures of our own Judeo-Christian tradition, animals play key parts in the narratives. The serpent in the story of the Garden of Eden in Genesis 3, Balaam's talking donkey in Numbers 22-28, the sea monster Leviathan from the Psalms, Isaiah, Amos, and Job, sheep, roosters, swine, lambs, goats, the whole barnyard in the Gospels, the dragon in the book of Revelation. When Professor Lupin first teaches Harry the Patronus charm, he tells him that in order for the spell to work, he has to focus on a very happy memory, because only happiness, and by extension, love, friendship, loyalty, joy, is an effective antidote against the Dementors, who suck the happiness out of the world and the souls out of human beings.
They're actually symbolic of deep depression.
Yeah, and you can see that, can't you? You can feel it. Like all the joy has gone out of the
Everything
world.
goes
It's
cold.
cold. Yeah, super cold, right? When Dementors arrive, the world becomes cold and barren. Surviving a Dementor attack is no small achievement, and according to Professor Lupin, chocolate aids in the recovery. It helps. It really helps.
It definitely helps me.
That provides you, again, a little context for what we're going to be talking about today. And so I'm going to begin by showing you a little clip of that first bit that I talked about, which is the introduction of Buckbeak, the hippogriff, to the class.
He's my favorite.
He's your favorite? Okay, so we're going to watch that video and then we'll have a little discussion. I have a couple of questions. And actually what I'm going to do right now is I have your little textbook, which are actually only one page this time. And it gives you some study questions. And you can, as you watch, you can think about these. And this isn't a quiz. You're not going to be graded on it. It's just to kind of activate your imagination. What do you notice about the way animals and humans interact? What messages about the care of magical creatures, or any creature, does it offer us? And how does this fit in with the Bible's theology of creation? And the citation I have there, Genesis 1:31, is God saw that all that he had created, and it was very good. So this notion of original blessing, not original sin, original blessing. Okay? The original goodness of all created things. Did you notice anything specific about the way animals and humans interact in that scene? Respect. Okay, you want to say more, Linda?
They both had to earn each other's respect, and then they could fly together.
I love that. It actually reminds me of like in the service that we just had, for example, like when you have the people come up with the offering, they bow to me, I bow to them. You know, we greet each other with respect, and of course what's between us are the offerings. We're not offering just the money that we've collected, but also offering of ourselves, you know, to God and to each other. So I always thought that it's a wonderful liturgical gesture, don't you think? Other observations about that video?
What I noticed is, and I hadn't seen that particular movie clip before, but I thought of how we interact with animals differently depending upon the perceived size.
Oh, say more about that.
And so, if I approach a bull or a giraffe or something large, I do it much differently than if I approach something small.
Leanne's dog.
And so I'm, you know, when you read about what the Bible says about we have dominion over the plants and the animals of the world, it's interesting how Harry didn't approach him like he had dominion over him at first. It was kind of interesting to notice how I kind of noticed that difference, and I thought it was due to size.
It's like he waited for the end.
Yes, exactly.
He did.
There's
And we
a
still do that.
Yeah, we do.
Well, when we approach a dog or
Yes,
we don't know.
exactly.
how does that translate then to how we approach little people too, little human beings like Alora? We approach children differently, don't we, than
Yes,
we do
we do.
Sure.
adults?
Yes, we do. Yep.
We should.
And whether it's a perceived difference in power or strength or cognitive ability or whatever it is, there are all kinds of ways our
Yep.
body language conveys what the negotiated relationship is going to be, what the dynamics are going to be.
Alora was saying you need to develop trust.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Very good.
true.
Very nice.
On the nose. Okay, well, I'm done here. I'm just going to let Alora teach. 'Cause what messages does it offer us about the care of magical creatures or any creature,
Including kids
including kids
and each other.
and each other? What is it? What messages? We talked about respect, obviously.
Like she said, build the trust, build
No trust. Okay, good.
I used to do equestrian work. I used to ride horses. And there becomes a bond if you ride the same horse. There becomes a bond. And you know, when I first learned to ride, I thought I had to kick them to get them to move. That's
Yeah.
what, you know, kick them, make them do it, you know. No, you don't. You're supposed to actually squeeze your
Yeah.
legs to tell them how to move. And keep your hands still. And your body has to conform to their body rather than forcing your will on them. And when you have the idea that the tense idea that I have to make this 1,500-pound animal do something I want it to do and not let it get away with anything is a whole different mindset that I need to work in conjunction with this animal, that we are one when I'm riding it.
So, if I were going to be provocative towards adults, Laura, cover your ears. This is actually what you just said could be applied to intimate relations between people in a couple, right?
Yep.
This notion of that there's, we have that reading about becoming, the male and female becoming one flesh, and this notion of mutuality and mutual support, right? Just like we have in the marriage rite. And respect and trust and the rest of it. So we could even apply that to other types of relationships too, because what you were conveying was about mutuality, respect, lack of violence and power and dominion, right? Because there are all kinds of ways we exercise dominion in both explicit and implicit ways. So,
Well, and as a teacher, I know that.
student-teacher.
Yeah, that particularly now that I'm teaching one-on-one, instead of giant groups of children that have to be controlled. One-on-one is really dependent upon the trust that that student has for me,
Right.
which is,
It's a lot different.
it is different, and it's not lost on me how horrible the abuse is because of that trust. You know, when the abuse that we've all been listening about, on any level, whether it's, you know, whatever, I don't wanna get into detail, but I think that trust is a sacred bond that we have with each other.
I think that's beautiful and true. And I do think that fits in with the Bible's theology of creation. Do other people have any associations?
What?
Well, the notion that God saw everything that God had created and it was very good. This notion of original blessing. And how does that connect with what we've been talking about thus far? Yeah.
I'm not sure if this does or not, but one thing that Rowling writes about, and is really a very common theme, I think, in the Bible and really throughout history, is the concept of a hierarchy, where right, wrong, or indifferent, certain individuals or classes see themselves at a higher level.
Pure bloods, right?
For example,
That guy in Harry Potter.
well,
Yeah.
and I mean, we've certainly seen this throughout history. We see it in the current day. In terms of the Harry Potter world, you mentioned centaurs and elves, where even, I mean, you would expect the villainous characters to, you know, treat them badly, but it's even surprising when the so-called heroes treat them badly, and they do, placing themselves above, you know, other classes. So it's not just the villains that misbehave, but the so-called, some of the heroes and so-called good characters as well. Hierarchy is actually, it's a common thing you'll see, not so much in this movie or in this book,
No.
but certainly in others.
Well, for example, if you look at the one, it might be in the third book, you'll have to remind me, where you have Spew, where
No,
Hermione,
it's fourth.
that's fourth book, which was a society that Hermione started because she was very distressed by the enslavement of house elves, like Dobby, if you've seen the films or read the books. And elves are actually extraordinarily powerful. I mean, they
can do things that wizards and witches
cannot do, and yet they are also small and very vulnerable. So there's this tension between small and vulnerable, and you know, big things come in small packages too.
And often are blamed for some bad events that they had nothing to do with. They become easy scapegoats.
Which, the parallel to animals is evident. If you think about the natural attitude we have toward pit bulls, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
I used to own people.
It really is the human that has trained that pit bull
Oh, yes.
to
Sure.
be how it is,
Yeah.
Right.
not, you know.
It's not
There are no
natural.
bad
And then blame the
bad
animal when it does what it was
Yes,
trying to
it
do.
is, exactly, so.